Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the Mason District Council's Forum on Future Redevelopment of Recommendations for the Seven Corner Wilson area. Tonight we're hosting this meeting to encourage communication and community dialogue. My name is Molly Leffler and I'm the chair of the Mason District Council of Community Associations. This meeting was organized by an all-volunteer network of community leaders, and I just want to thank our board of directors, Debbie Smith of Ravenwood, our vice chair, Carol Turner of Ravenwood Park, our land use chair and our secretary, and John Clark here, our treasurer from Annandale Acres. So thank you guys, and thank you, Carol, for helping with the logistics of organizing this. Thank you for helping us get the tools. Okay. And the Mason District Council is a volunteer, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization made up of neighborhood, civic, and homeowner associations in Mason District. Our mission is to connect neighborhoods and provide a communication forum, system of support, and voice for those who are working to better their communities. We are part of the larger organization, the Fairfax Federation. Any neighborhood or organization with a governing body can join us. And we basically work with the Fairfax Federation to let the Board of Supervisors know what's important to the citizens. Our information is available on our website, masondistrict.org. Anybody could be on our mailing list. Emailing list, I should say. I just want to mention that we've hosted a couple other town halls and forums. If you want to go to our website, you can see what we've done. The upcoming meetings we've got this year, in October, we have one planned for this Thursday for the Mason District Pool board members who want to get together and discuss pool issues. They're meeting here this Thursday at 7:30, Sleepy Hollow Elementary Cafeteria. And also we're hosting with the League of Women Voters on October 21st, a candidates meet and greet, and that will be in Kingstown, and that's info is on our website, masondistrict.org. Tonight, we will spend about 30 minutes with the panel, and then we're going to open up, the rest of the night will be spent on the audience, participation, Q&A. And so we know that some people may not know about what's going on. They're learning for the first time tonight about the plans. Others have been coming to meetings the entire time. So we probably have a mix of folks. So we'll see. Now, if you were too shy to get up and ask a question, we've thought of you. We have this lovely blue piece of paper over here if you want to come get one and write your question and give it to myself or Debbie, who will be on the other side, and we'll ask your question, we'll mix it in and read it for you, but only if someone else has not already asked the question, okay? And now, finally, we're going to just say that there are just a few ground rules for this evening, and that is just to be respectful of your neighbors, and to be respectful of the time that you are talking, because there's a Nats game at 9 tonight. And what we're going to do is we have this little red paddle. Carol, could you demonstrate the paddle, please? Okay. If you see this red paddle waving near you, it means your time should be coming to an end with what you're trying to say. Okay? So we, and we also have this. So if any of you gamers out there, we have this egg timer as well. Okay, so just be mindful of that. And let me see what else I had to say. We're videotaping this. It will be on YouTube, this meeting, so you can go to our website, masondistrict.org, in a few days, thanks to John, and we'll have that up. And then we want to thank our panelists and the members of the task force who worked for 2 years on this important subject for our district. So let's open with a round of applause for our panelists and the task force members. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over and we're going to have everybody introduce themselves and then we'll have Mr. Tillman begin by kind of going over everything for the audience. So we'll start with Supervisor Penny Gross. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Penny Gross, Mason District Supervisor.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sandy Evans, school board member for Mason District.
I'm Kay Corey. I am fortunate enough to be your representative in Richmond, delegate for the 38th District.
I'm Marty Tega, a resident of Ravenwood and member of the task force.
I'm John Tillman. I'm the co-chair of the task force.
Bernard Succeedle from the Fairfax County Department of Planning and Zoning.
And I'm Leonard Wolfenstein with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation.
My name is Paul Kachunas. I'm the Land Development Program Manager for VDOT, and all the applications that deal with the project regarding Seven Corners and the future development will be submitting plans through my office.
And I'm Joanne Phoebe. I'm with the Fairfax County Office of Community Revitalization.
Okay, so let me begin by.
Is the mic on here?
Paul turned it off. Oh, I see, okay. All right, so I want to just spend a minute explaining what my background is, so people, if you're wondering why I was co-chair. First of all, I'm an urban planner. I began my career in Rochester, New York as a city planner. Came to Fairfax County, I was the zoning chief, chief of environment and technical services. I headed up the environmental division for the county in the planning office. In 1977, I did the county-wide master plan. Then I went to the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I was chief of planning for the agency in the headquarters in downtown. I was also the water planning expert for the agency. Thereafter, I went to the air office, and I headed up the Office of Air Quality Planning and Standards nationwide for EPA. While I was at EPA, the county put me on the Planning Commission, so I spent quite a few years on the Fairfax County Planning Commission, representing what was then the Centerville District, now called Hunter Mill District. I was also not only on the Planning Commission, I was also chairman of the Environmental Quality Advisory Council for the county, first vice chairman and chairman. And I've been on a number of other county commissions, authorities, etc. Currently on the BCRC and the Southeast Fairfax Development Corporation, and also a member of the Economic Advisory Commission for the county. The governor of Virginia appointed me to 2 terms on the Chesapeake Bay Science Advisory Board because of my environmental background and my land use background. So I don't know why I was chosen to be vice chairman, but co-chairman, but I took the responsibility very seriously. As an urban planner working in the planning field, I realized that we needed to do something differently than I normally see task forces do in Northern Virginia. So beginning with the Seven Corners Visioning Program, which was 2.5 years ago, we had 150 attendees on 4 different nights talk about what people thought needed to happen in Seven Corners. As a consequence of those 4 nights and those 500 or 600 individuals attending those 4 nights, Penny decided to create 3 groups. One was a connectivity subcommittee, and that was looking at transportation and vehicles and walking. Some of those members are here tonight. Another one was a quality of life subcommittee, and the third one was a land use and transportation task force. So the effort began in October 2012, and that was for the land use and transportation task force. And it is still ongoing today. Even though the task force ended its work about a week and a half ago, there is now a subcommittee moving forward on a portion of the land use plan that had not been moved forward to the Board of Supervisors. So we've had, I don't know, I counted at one point about 30 people involved in various task forces and subcommittees for the last 2.5 years. The task force spent the last 2 years on a very important task. That's developing a land use and transportation plan for the Seven Corners area for the next 20 to 40 years. This isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow, and it's not going to take forever, but it will over time evolve. The area is roughly bounded by Arlington County on the east, City of Falls Church on the north, properties along Leesburg Pike on the west, and Patrick Henry Drive on the south. There were 30 formal task force meetings, every one of them open to the public. and at least another 30-plus meetings by staff and myself and other task force, even additional task force meetings with individual members of the task force in their communities. Plus, we had field trips, we had charrettes. There's an awful lot of activity that's taken place over the last 2 years. So how did we get to this point? Well, the task force began with a work plan and had us spending the first 9 months of October 2012 to June 2013 listening to briefings and querying outside experts and county staff. What I felt was that most of the time when we have a voting task force on land use, it's pretty much staff-driven, and I felt that this time, before we even got into having the staff drive the task force, we need to make sure that everyone on the task force knew what everyone else on the task force knew. So there weren't people that had no clue what the conversation was about, and only a few people that would know what's going on. So we spent 9 months at a land use college. Basically, the first 9 months, every night that we met, we had experts come in and talk to us about their particular area of responsibility and expertise. We asked them questions, we got exhibits, all that stuff has been posted online. So at the end of that time, we had a charrette, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the task force looked at things like potential impacts from current by right zoning. What were the transportation trips that can be generated right now by the by right zoning? What that means is the land uses that are there may not be the ultimate land uses that can be there based on the current zoning. The current zoning would allow individuals that own those properties to have even additional density that's not there right now. So the first thing we looked at was what would be the potential transportation impact if everyone went to the existing zoning maximum density without us changing the land use plan or doing anything else. They could do that by right with no approvals from Penny or anyone else. So that was the first thing we looked at. Population demographics. One of the things we found, and I know people are upset when I mention this, is that those areas inside the Seven Corners quadrant, the one I just mentioned, the average income per family is $43,000. The average income for Fairfax County's family is $107,000. It's a huge disparity. That's one of the reasons why the retail that's there is not very good retail, because it's kowtowing to a population that doesn't have disposable income. One of the big issues for us is how do you redo affordable housing? We have a lot of affordable housing there. How do you deal with it? A mixed-use development, what's that all about? Retail, what makes it work? What's a vibrant street? On and on and on. So these are the actual topics over 9 months that we considered. The first thing we looked at, understand the current comprehensive plan and current allowable densities of the plan. Understand the current zoning and current allowable densities as the area is built versus actual allowable uses and inventory of uses. That's the thing I mentioned a minute ago about transportation. Evaluate the historic development pattern for the area, housing, retail, roadways, inventory of public facilities, school profiles, environment and recreational uses, demographic profile of the area, I just mentioned that, the population and economic, both of them. Multifamily development, how's it developed, how's it financed, how's it market focused. Affordable housing, how's it developed, financed, targeted. For instance, is it private funding, is it VHDA, Virginia Housing Development Authority financed, or is it HUD, Housing and Urban Development, which is federal, Fairfax County programs. We learned all of that stuff, that each one of those projects were supported by. Basic transportation briefing, including existing conditions that exist now, levels of service, the comprehensive plan recommendations. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to finish this because people will not understand what the plan is. All right. So, basic transportation briefing, existing conditions, levels of service, where and when are the trips generated and how the system accommodates them, transportation demand management programs and how they function, mass transit, how it plays into single occupancy vehicles, bus transfer stations, express buses, BRT, light rail, mixed-use development, how does it function, how does it develop, creating destinations, how do you create a destination in a sense of place, creating metro-focused development patterns, determining for Seven Corners if there was a market for employment other than retail, such as office, recognizing that a huge amount of vacant office space exists countywide right now. 19 million square feet of county office space is vacant right now. There's more than exists in all of Richmond. Determining for Seven Corners, looking at the future of retail and how retail plays in a mixed-use concept. How does destination retail work? It's changing nationally. The internet has completely changed retail. looking at the future of activating street frontage. How do you make a street work for pedestrians? How do you get the restaurants to put their tables out front? How does that happen? Creating a vibrant streets plan for the area. Washington DC has a vibrant streets plan. That plan has gone viral. It's now in 50 cities in the United States. We've inculcated that into our plan. We have subcommittee presentations on connectivity, the quality of life, the Falls Church Eastern Gateway concepts, NBTC studies on future rail possibilities for Route 7 and looping into East Falls Church Metro. How does revitalization in areas where there are existing businesses with leases and existing affordable multifamily housing, some with subsidized HUD and VHDA financing, different from developing in an area where very large properties are vacant, underperforming, which is usually what happens in Fairfax County. Here we have existing properties that are performing financially. How do you get somebody to turn those into something brand new? After the education exercise, we went through the staff, divided the Seven Corners area into 3 areas, what we consider to be opportunity areas. A, B, and C is the Sears Center. We did a land use charrette. At the end of all this education, the task force got together and we invited people in from the community. We invited Arlington County planners, we invited Falls Church County planners, and we had a charrette. The amazing thing is that we had various tables, and all the various tables in the charrette came up with similar concepts. And it was because everybody was on the same page, everybody had the same information, everybody had the same level of education on those issues. So from those 4 tables and 3 charrette concepts, we began to work on a land use plan. And that's what we spent the next year and a half on. And we essentially did not deviate very much from the original charrette. We made some fine tuning, etc. The problem with the Sears site is the new developer came in and proposed something a lot higher than we came up with the charrette. And we chose not to go in that direction. And as a consequence, Martin will be handling the subcommittee viewing that for the future. So the concept, the plan is designed to be metrocentric, walkable, a destination to generate economic viability, to create better development. Existing development needs to be redeveloped, so incentives need to be created, density and better access to mass transportation options. We all need to do this to improve Seven Corners. The one thought I will leave with you tonight is what we created in this master plan. The new residential units that are market rate, market driven, will generate, if we use the average, let's say not even $107,000, but $100,000, we can generate up to $500 billion of new disposable income in this area every single year once we get all those units built. That will transform this area. That will turn this into something really, really wonderful. We'll get those vibrant streets. We'll get those cafes. We'll get those kinds of retail uses. We'll have that population. It makes a huge difference. So, there you go. Made my
you done?
I thought it was very basic question, very short.
A charrette is an exercise, and Joanne is an expert in charrette. She could probably do a better job than me. I'll give a quick study. A charrette is an exercise where you bring in a whole bunch of people and you tell everybody that no ideas are bad. And in the case of the land use charrette, what we do is we identify an area that they would have outlined on a piece of paper on a plan, on a table, and there'd be 15 people around the table. They would all start talking about what they think makes sense in this area based on what's there now. How do you change what's there now? What would you like to see? So that was, I think we started at 10 o'clock in the morning, we went to 9 o'clock that night with 40 people. And at the end of that exercise, we came up with 2 things. Every table came up with a concept for a different area. Plus, every table came up with a concept for the whole thing. And the concept for the whole thing by every table was nearly identical. And the individual tables that came up with their concepts, they were slightly different here and there. That's what a charrette is, and that was the result.
Thank you for your question. Now, we do have a portion, majority of the night will be questions, but we're going to go ahead and let, thank you, Mr. Tillman, because it's kind of new for some of us, I think, that haven't been coming to the meeting, so I appreciate that. And now we're going to have Joanne Phoebe give a presentation on what they're recommending. And but just for clarification, this section C, where the Sears is, has been taken out. And we'll hear about that a little bit more later, so thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just do this real quick, just to give a quick overview because there's just a lot of. You need anyone to push your buttons?
No, I think I'm okay. Okay, so just to give a quick overview, this is Route 7 here, Leesburg Pike. This is Arlington Boulevard here. No, I'm good, thank you. I'd rather be up here with time. This is the Seven Corners Shopping Center, so where the Home Depot is now, and Barnes and Nobles and everything else. And this is the Sears site that people have been talking about as part of a future study. And of course, the two office buildings that are part of the Sears. Up here is the Williston area where the Williston Multicultural Center is, along with the two apartment complex and Williston One Shopping Center. So just to give you kind of a orientation, the concept in a nutshell is to basically take those large blocks using kind of smart growth principles and break them down into small walkable blocks. And it seems like a major transformation it is, and it's something like we've been saying will happen over a long period of time. Home Depot sits right about here, so, we even considered that, how we could incorporate a Home Depot into the existing plan if they wanted to stay there. But the bigger picture is the idea of breaking down the shopping center into manageable, walkable blocks that people can navigate around. You can either walk, bike, or drive there. And you can see examples like this that the county has done in the Mosaic District, where they took, if anyone's been there, the large, it was a single theater site, and that was broken down into all those little streets that become, a walkable environment. So this is a very similar scenario, although it's definitely Seven Corners specific. And similarly, in the Williston area, we used a lot of the existing grid or driveways and things to kind of do a similar concept. Both areas have retail on the ground floor in most of the areas, and then residential above, or in some cases office. So it's a blend of uses. There's also some civic uses. And then one of the key features of the plan is this idea of what we call spine road, thinking about kind of a backbone to the project. And this was central to what was developed out of the charrette process when community and task force members worked together to develop this idea where we create a new road that bridges over Route 50 and connects all three areas of the plan. And so the idea here is that you don't need to, people who are local who only want to get around Seven Corners don't have to interact with Arlington Boulevard or Route 7, and they can connect to all these areas through a multimodal street. And so I think, so that was a big part of the vision. And so in that sense, as part of that, we developed a whole series of public spaces that connect to that spine road. So a large public plaza, you can imagine something like if you've been to Rockville Town Center that has all those civic uses. A new soccer field or some sort of recreational field in the Williston area, along with a whole series of pocket parks and other uses. So I think, so that covers the three opportunity areas. And then we have transportation professionals that can talk about the transportation concept, but in general, I'll just explain, this shows very diagrammatically what the idea is here, and the concept is to essentially break down the interchange. And the interchange was bad design over a long period of time, in time periods when planning and transportation planning was not, and design was not successful. And so we want to be thinking multimodal. We want to think about how pedestrians can cross over 50, can get around, how bicycles, I watch bicyclists go through Seven Corners, the interchange. It's horrible. And so same thing with pedestrians. And so we want to create a regular intersection where people can get across and move about this intersection normally. And so the idea here was that we needed to decentralize the traffic. Right now, everybody has to go through the interchange if you want to get between 50 and 7. Somehow you have to go through that interchange. And so the idea here is that we make it so you don't have to. And so there's connection points, either a bridge here, or, and that the exact location has to be determined later on when they do final engineering and they see where the best place is for it to work. But And there'll be another location here on the east and west sides of the interchange where you would actually connect on and off of Route 50. And so using kind of a ring road concept. So that is the big change. It's decentralizing the traffic to make traffic work better. And let's see, I think, and lastly, I'll just switch to the concept for Leesburg Pike, which is, we looked at Falls Church and the way that Leesburg Pike functions in Falls Church, and we said we still need to preserve traffic flow through Leesburg, through the Pike, but which doesn't function super well on Broad Street. But we need to, we want to capture some of that character that you can find on Broad Street, where it's more of a boulevard, and you can actually walk and feel comfortable, and there's an environment that's engaging for pedestrians, and has uses on that street. So I'll just show you a quick concept of that. And this is a concept of Route 7 if in the long-term future when dedicated transit is planned for Route 7, it would either happen along the center of the road or on the edges of the road. And we've looked at right-of-way impacts on this, and there's actually, because the access roads, the right-of-way exists there. And then this is just kind of from an urban design perspective, what would maybe some of the forms look like if we fully built out the concept of the plan, and how dense are we talking about? So those are the building forms, not what would be built, but just a concept of what could be built. And then this is Route 7, Leesburg Pike. And this is showing the actual option of curb running transit where it sits right along the curb, and it could be either BRT or streetcar extension of the Columbia Pike streetcar, something like that. That's the section that's been designed in the plan.
Where are you getting the land to do all that?
Okay, are we ready for the?
We're gonna start the, what do we have next? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. We're gonna, all right, yeah, we're gonna open up for the audience, so keep your questions. We're not finished with our presentation, right? Or we are? Okay, so are we gonna talk about the Sears option or no? Okay, so, well, we're gonna let Marty Vega give a brief introduction of himself, because here's where we are for folks who haven't been to meetings, myself included, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, so they're talking about the A and B sections of the map, which we're seeing. C is where Sears is. They took that off the grid table, off the table. And Marty's going to be chairing that committee, which is going to be, Marty, take it away.
Okay, thanks very much. I mentioned earlier, I'm a resident of Ravenwood. Folks in Ravenwood wonder, well, why would Penny have Marty do this? I think her reasoning was, look, people are really excited about this. Somebody has to be sacrificed. Marty's the oldest. It's pragmatic politics. We don't have an assigned group yet, and maybe speaking for Penny, but if any community associations that have been invited to participate haven't yet responded to her assistant, Aaron Frank, please do that so we can get going. We'd like to start meeting at the end of this month. We will probably meet every 2 weeks at least, almost surely at Mason Governmental Center where the previous meetings were held. Of course, they'll be public. I want to back up a bit and go back to the visioning and try to work from that through the experiences that John took us through and get back to the specifics of the site. But what I don't want to do is just start off and say, well, you saw A, B, C, and D, which one do you like? Let's take a vote. We'll have to work our way through that, and we'll do that over a period of 6 or 8 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, everybody understand that Marty's chairing a committee made up of neighborhoods. Each person's going to be giving a representative to the committee to discuss this, right, Penny? And you can say, well, let's let Penny tell what she's planning for this.
The special committee, that we're putting together includes residential members of the task force, those who wish to serve, and adding to them, I've asked the civic association, civic and HOA presidents of the abutting neighborhoods to either serve or designate someone to serve in their stead. So there will be probably 12 to 15 people overall. We've already heard from several civic associations. We've not heard from all. I believe Ravenwood Park, Buffalo Hills, Seven Oaks, Lee Boulevard Heights. There are a couple of others that have not responded, but I think those that I mentioned have already responded. So there will be another iteration. They'll be operating in the public, like the task force that I appointed and the work groups that I appointed. When a member of the Board of Supervisors appoints a task force or a group like this, the group is subject to the same FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and Sunshine laws that the Board of Supervisors is subject to. And so they can't have closed-door meetings. They also cannot have mass emails between the groups. It makes it harder to communicate among the committee members, but that is the requirement of Virginia Sunshine laws and the Freedom of Information Act. So it's all open, all transparent.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're ready to open it up to audience questions, are we? Okay, Kate Corey, our delegate, would like to say something. Time's up, I'm sorry.
I yielded my time to John and I didn't even know. I think it's important for you all to understand that as a state delegate, I do not have any direct responsibility for this plan. No, I live here. That's the other part of it. And the other thing that's important to understand is that the state does not have very much money. Our revenues are decreasing, and please do not look to the state for any major source of funding, especially for transportation. As a resident and citizen of this area, I have been speaking in the past few months at some of the meetings, and I've had two major points. One is that, and I want to thank Penny and John for agreeing to let this process go further, because that was one of the things that I thought was really important. So many people didn't know what was going on, and it's not easy to understand. You can't just go to one meeting. And it's all of our responsibility, people who are sitting up here, who you've elected, to be sure that you have many, too many probably, opportunities to understand the plans for Seven Corners and Bailey's Crossroads, because we're all going to have to live with them. So again, please realize that John and Penny agreed to extend this process by 3 months longer than the original plan, and I thank them.
Thank you. Okay, did we want the transportation portion, or we haven't? Did you guys want to do any of that? Did you have a little something to show?
No, we did.
Basically, that's it?
Between Mr. Tillman and Joanne, they put in some transportation.
Okay, let me get, yeah, now we're going to open up for questions. So Debbie, can you go to that side? We're going to have a mic on each side of the room. If you're shy, please write your question down and pass it up to me or Debbie. So I think we're going to open up the floor to questions now for the panelists. And this is the mic. We want you on that side. You need to come to the microphone. We don't have a long court, so you need to come stand in line. We've done this before in other meetings, so, but folks that are new, you need to stand in line and then you get your chance to ask. Okay, so we'll start there and then we're gonna go here and back and forth. First person, name and neighborhood, please.
Hi, I'm Lon Jones. I live at Ravenwood. Picture back up of Seven Corners with Route 7. Really quick question. Where are you going to get the land, the additional land between the buildings to put all the sidewalks in and everything? I'm sorry?
So there's two answers to that. One is a lot of the existing right-of-way actually already exists because of either access roads or because of previous projects that have taken the right-of-way through company along high-capacity transit. Or as these projects redevelop, as maybe those blocks start to get broken up and buildings start to get built, sidewalks would get widened.
Joanne, they're asking you to think.
So are we going to tear the school down that we just put in?
No, let me see if I can take track of this also.
Okay, but we want to keep the comment to a minimum.
Part of what happens in any development, and this is just a conceptual plan, it has not been heard by the planning commission, it's not been heard by the board of supervisors. I haven't even seen the final language that's going to be coming forward. That's still in development. But when you have a developer who is building new buildings, much of what they also have to do is dedication of right-of-way.
I understand
In
that.
almost every situation, you've got some dedication of right-of-way. So they have to take some of their land and give it over to transit and transportation.
But you have buildings sitting already there, one of which is a school that we just opened here a month ago. Actually, a month ago. So I don't see us having a huge wide sidewalk. There's no room between the service road and Route 7.
Mr. Jones, this is a 20 to 40-year planning horizon. This is not something that is happening today, tomorrow, or even the next day. It is a 20 to 40-year planning horizon, and if this all changes over, that's what is anticipated to happen. Is that the developers will have to dedicate some of their property for transportation needs, in addition to whatever right-of-way already exists.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Name and neighborhood, please.
Hello, I'm Clyde Miller from Home Fund Valley. I hadn't wanted to speak early, but I want to illustrate the difficulty that many of us who have been trying to work with this task force have had. I think from a long discussion we've had of what's going to happen at Seven Corners, you can possibly have no idea what's going to happen at Seven Corners. What's going to happen at Seven Corners is all of the area that was described is going to be leveled, and it's going to be replaced with apartment buildings that are 6 to 12 stories high. That's what's going to happen at Seven Corners. That's the plan. But we haven't been told that, despite the fact we've gone half an hour. I have provided a handout that describes some of the issues with the redevelopment. The handouts on our web address at the bottom of the page. I can find the website for people who didn't get it. The proposed redevelopment would be the most dense concentration of floor area in Fairfax County. 7.7 million square feet, a 6 to 12-story office building with enough space for 6,000 apartments. In an August 29 meeting with county representatives, Hillman reportedly stated that the 7.7 million square foot figure originated in the Seven Corners property owners as their estimate of what would be profitable. That's fine for the property owners, but what about us? For example, a major community issue in the implementation of the plan is evident in Bailey's Upper Elementary School. We are sending 700 to 800 of our children in grades 3 through 5 to the county's first urban design school and a converted 5-story building with no gym, no green space, located smack against Leesburg Pike. Does that environment provide a productive, stimulating school experience for these young children? And who among us would send their children to such a school if a traditional neighborhood school with a gym and green space were available? And what does that tell us about our property values? If Bailey's Upper is the best we can do for current students, on what basis are we prepared to invite another 6,000 households into our school district? Stepping back, the New Bailey School seems a harbinger of our demise. It seems that we cannot survive as a suburban community. Instead, we are destined to become an urban community, a city, and accept the consequences. How have we let that happen to us? There is much to be said against the composition of the task force and the process we use to drive to a high-rise plan for Seven Corners, but the commentary largely would be pointless. The plan is what it is. From here, it goes to the Planning Commission and possibly Board of Supervisors. What they do with it will depend, at least in part, upon what we, the community, whether we, the community, accept the plan or oppose it. The community now has a choice to make, and it's a simple one. Do we want Seven Corners to continue as a thriving suburban shopping area, serving our community, or do we want to transform it into a dense urban center of 6 to 12-story apartment buildings? These two choices are the only choices. There is no middle ground, and the community should choose one or the other rather than let others make the choice for us. To this end, I would like to propose 3 activities. First, would you all tonight please neatly sign the sign-up sheet so that you can be contacted later, in particular regarding the date of the Planning Commission hearing expected early next year. Second, as soon as you have decided your position on the plan, to accept it or to oppose it, please email the Planning Commission with that information. This will help them understand the community's position. Be sure to include your name and address in the email to show that you are a county resident. And finally, would Mason District Council please consider conducting an online survey of the community to help us better understand the community's position on this important issue. Thank you.
Talk about, that was our first speech. Thank you. And,
I did
yes,
want to address some of the issues that were raised.
a lot of issues, yes.
Well, just with the school. And I will say that my top concern as the school board member representing this area is what do we do with the children that would be generated by redevelopment. We all want balanced redevelopment. I believe we all want balanced redevelopment. We do have a concern over our schools being over capacity in this area. So that is something that I have urged that the task force and that our people on SCPS take a look at. How would we deal with the generation of a number of new students? But I do want to address the issue of Upper Baileys. I invite all of you to come to the ribbon cutting that we are going to have next week, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. People are going to be there to have tours after the ribbon cutting. It is a beautiful learning space. It is a gorgeous learning space. It is a terrific amount of natural light. It has terrific views, which you normally don't get from an elementary school. We do have plenty of physical activity for our children. We have not yet created the outdoor space, but we're working with the community groups to help us design outdoor space, and we will have outdoor space for our children. We have a wonderful science lab over there. What I'm hearing from other parts of Fairfax County is, why don't we have that? And I can tell you who's happy to be there. I can tell you who's happy to be there are the parents of the Bailey's children, whose children were in 19 trailers over at Bailey's Elementary School.
Amen.
And whose third graders were having to go through rain and snow just to get to the bathroom. And so the parents over there are very happy with that. So that's who's happy to have their children there. And I think it's a concept that we're going to be doing more and more in Fairfax County, is we have very little land, particularly over here. So we're going to have to do something a little bit different in the future. And anyway, I urge you all to come look at the actuality of Bailey's Upper.
May I add
Okay. A brief, quick answer, yes. Then we're moving forward for the next person. Thanks.
When the building at 6245 Leesburg Pike was built in the 80s, it had a proffer on it, that's a legally binding promise, that there would be no changes to the outside of the building or the grounds, which is why we were not able to do anything immediately about a playground or any changes to the outside. That will require a proper condition amendment by the school system. Our choice was to do that, to do the proper condition amendment first, which takes about a year, and then build a new school, renovate the school, the building, or classrooms first, playground second. And we opted to go for classrooms first. And then the follow-on will be the proper condition amendment, which will come forward probably after the first of the year for playground and other amenities on the outside.
Thank you. I have
Okay,
a question
Debbie.
following up on schools. What specifically must be done to request that Wilson Center site be reverted back to a Fairfax County public school?
That we have had over the years, and that is something that our staff has requested of the county in the past. Supervisor Gross and I have had that conversation. It's owned by the county, so it's within the county's purview, and I don't know if anyone wants to answer that.
Now that we were able to identify the Bailey's upper school site, and Sandy and I are working on another location in the Bailey's Crossroads area for another school. The Wilson site, which is owned by the county, was given up by the school system in 1982, I believe it was, as surplus. That site is part of the proposal for a county facility. Most likely an East County center of some sort, but not a school site. It will be a county facility.
So is there a process in place that the community can petition or formally request this site be reverted back to a Fairfax? What is the process for that?
There is no process. That is,
The school board cannot issue a request for
the school board could issue a request. There has not been a formal request from the school board to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. So we need to ask the school board to officially or formally do that.
If the school, yes, that would be the appropriate, but that does not mean that it would happen.
Well, we certainly have had the conversation, and we have made the request informally in a number of ways. We had a work session in January of 2015, in which we made it clear that we would welcome having the Wilson site back. Now, since then, keep in mind, we have cooperated on creating Bailey's Upper Elementary School, which is taking care of our immediate need at Bailey's. And we did, this was an unusual process that we used in terms of, rather than doing a boundary study, which is the normal way that we create a new school after we create a new school, we made the decision in large part because Bailey's parents felt very strongly about remaining Bailey's parents. We wanted to keep the immersion program there, we wanted to keep the magnet program there, we wanted to keep the very rich arts and science program there. So instead of doing a boundary study, we split it pre-K through 2, which is at the original site, and 3 through 5, which is at Bailey's Upper. So that has, for the immediate future, taken care of that issue. We have other overcrowding issues in our schools. We have Glen Forest is great.
There's a chart over here if anybody wants to see it.
Glen Forest is way over capacity. We have trailers at Park Lawn. We have trailers still at Belvedere. We have now, of course, in this area, the entire area, the Wilson area, as most of the Wilson area, as well as all of the Sears site, that is districted to Sleepy Hollow Elementary School. So to the extent that we would have more children, they would be coming into this school, and we are at capacity here. This, what you may or may not know is Sleepy Hollow is one of the smaller schools in Fairfax County, and we can have about 450 students here. We have about 450 students here now. So we are at capacity. Part of Wilston goes to Peachtree Elementary School. We still have some room at Peachtree Elementary School. I think the projection is to, in 5 years, to have maybe 89 seats. Okay, I'm gonna sit down.
Sandy's getting the red paddle sign.
The red paddle.
Okay,
We
I
have
think
one
we
more
had-
school question here.
Okay, are you on the school subject? Okay, on this side, your name and neighborhood, please?
I'm Mike Lyon, I live about 2 blocks away from here for about 25 years now. So I have a couple comments. First of all, I appreciate what the committee's done. I know it's a lot of hard work. I think there's some good things that you're talking about there. I like places like Boston and Clary, for example, but of course they have Metro there, which we don't. And I I would love to find a way of solving the problems around Seven Corners, because I've been driving around for 25 years, and I could use a different route around there. But my biggest concern is about the schools. I have a fourth grader in the school here, now is in Belvedere, in a trailer over there. I've seen over this period of time the overcrowding and the underwhelming planning in schools that's taking place here. Some really big strategic mistakes, like closing the Wilson Center to that school, the James Community Center. That was also a school. I mean, they built a new building right here, and within a year, there were trailers back here. So they obviously didn't build enough, and they had the opportunity to put an extra story on it. So my major concern is, if we're going to do this, we need to have this as part of the solution to the schools, not making the school situation worse. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity to do that. I mean, in a couple ways. I mean, we have to build some schools there. We have to. You just can't do this without building some schools there. Second of all, I think, and I'm going to say this is a little controversial maybe, but I believe in affordable housing, but I think affordable housing in this area in the last 5 or 6 years has been abused. We have overcrowding in a lot of those areas. We have overcrowding in Colmore. It's not what it was meant to be. And if we're going to tear down some of those housing and redevelop it, we should do it the right way. If we're going to put affordable housing there, we should overcrowd it, way past capacity. So we need to go where we have good rules about it and make sure that it's done the right way and not make the problem worse.
No slumlords.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Do I have any
Does anybody have any comments on that from?
I can address the affordable housing.
When we talked about redoing the affordable housing, the area around the Wilson Center is where the affordable housing is now. One part of it, if you were looking at the Wilson site to the left, that's all VHDA, Virginia Department of Housing Development Authority finance. The stuff on the right is private equity, but it's affordable because the rents are low. In the VHDA situation, if that gets redone, the developer has to tear all those buildings down, build brand new buildings that are ADA accessible, with all the modern conveniences, etc. And then in order to pay for that, he's going to put market rate housing there. He's not going to add affordable housing. Keep what's there to replace it with new housing. Then put market rate housing above it. The market rate housing presumably would be the housing where the individuals are making the average Fairfax County income of $107,000. On the other side, which is to the right, if you're looking from 50 toward the area, that's owned by a company that's overseas. They might redevelop as well. They're not tied to either VHD or HUD financing, although individuals living there have vouchers from Fairfax County to VHDA. So what that means is he could redevelop, same thing has to happen. He has to tear down the existing, keep the number of units by building brand new units, and then add market rate housing above it or right there at the same place. So we're not adding that. The affordable housing we're adding is what's referred to as workforce housing. And typically workforce housing is 80% of the median income, so those families are making around $90,000 a year. Those are our policemen and firemen, teachers, etc. Husband, wife, both working, making that kind of income. That's the affordable housing we're talking about.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Name and neighborhood, please.
Yep, my name is Eric Welch. I'm a teacher at Jebster High School. Very simple question, but I guess relative to what we've heard all the schools. Can we create a task force so there's a community voice on the Jebster High School pyramid in this growth? Just focusing on that in terms of innovative ideas of how to come up with solutions to this. So I'm just suggesting, because it seems like there's no voice right now. We could get a task force together where there's a clear place to have a voice for this.
Well, Eric, I think that's a great idea. Now, whether that would be a part of what Marty's working on, or whether that would be a separate thing, I would be delighted to work with you on that. And I think it's a great idea.
Let me comment on that because I know many people think that the task force paid no attention to the schools, but in fact, it wasn't part of the charter. It's transportation and land use. The schools came up. There was a presentation by schools. There was some communication back and forth with schools to Ernie and Joanne. But at least currently, it's not specifically part of either the current plan or the follow-on review. Obviously, Penny and Peggy, someone can change any of that, but that's one situation.
So basically you're saying schools weren't put into the plan whatsoever?
Although, no. although the county's comprehensive plan, the overall county's comprehensive plan contains recommendations and guidelines for all things like schools, public facilities, libraries, fire stations, transportation. The county's comprehensive plan overall includes all of that. That would come into play as this plan moves forward, if it moves forward.
Well, and I'll just add that, certainly I have advocated that the task force look at schools and have a plan for the schools, because if we're looking at several hundred more students, we do need to be planning for that. In an area where we are over capacity, that's something that we need to be looking at. Even if it is 20 to 40 years, we need to be planning for that. And yes, we have daily supper, and yes, we're working on a second site, which will give us some relief. At the same time, we need to be thinking about what we would be doing with the children who would be part of the yield here. And I will mention, as some of you have mentioned before, I have concerns about the formula, the countywide formula, that shows us that we should have a certain percentage or certain numbers of students. And here in Mason District, we simply have higher yields than that. In the Williston area, for example, the formula says that we should have 179 students in 589 units. Instead, we have 371 from those same units. So that's more than double. And I have been talking with the superintendent and with our facilities folks to see, wouldn't it make more sense to have a formula that was done area by area, so we would take into account our particular needs here in our particular situation, and so it's really more realistic. Thank you.
One moment.
There's a school section in the plan, maybe Bernie can address it.
Again, my name is Bernie. Working with staff and staff from the county public schools, we identified in the overall comprehensive plan, there's a section on public facilities. We work with the school folks to draft new plan text, new policy that would help address this issue. And we created a new policy. It's in our draft plan text on page 65. You can access it to online if you already have a hard copy. New bullet that says, provide additional school facilities to include a new elementary school, middle school capacity enhancements, and high school capacity enhancements. So this sets new policy that will help further give additional direction to county staff to address this issue thoroughly with the community.
Is that for the total 20 to 40 years? That's all you've said?
Get that lady
One additional elementary school and enhancement?
This is to address what, again, schools can better address this issue on how they forecast student enrollment,
But this is a draft plan.
This is a draft plan.
For 20 to 40 years.
Now this, again, this is a separate part of the comprehensive plan in the policy plan that does not specifically, it's more of an overall comprehensive plan policy that looks at the greater Seven Corners community beyond the study area that we've been working on for the last 2 years. And this is just a start to help staff to provide additional direction for us, give us the policy that's needed to dig in, and probably through the evaluation and analysis, schools will see that there might be actual need and able to come with funding for additional schools, but that's something that schools will have to address.
Okay, that's a good point to being yelled at the audience. However, Kay would like to say something, and then we'll turn to Bernie. Ernie. Bernie and Ernie are near each other right now.
Kay will be very brief. I want to thank Eric Welch for that suggestion. And you need to understand, Eric and all the others who are interested in improving and expanding the schools in this district, you don't need anybody's permission to create a task force. You can create a task force. And I would be happy to work with you on it. We need a voice centered on education in this community to be sure that all of the concerns that are being expressed are heard. And perhaps even come together in an actual plan. There are a number of things that need to be addressed in the planning formulas, in the proper process, and most people don't know where to enter the process. And that would be something that we could talk about if we had a task force.
Let's make it so. Anyone who wants to be on the task force, I suggest you meet with Kay and Sandy and Eric or whoever that guy was. Okay? What do you think of that?
Eric Wells.
Yes, okay, I did
Teacher,
think Eric
phenomenal
Wells.
teacher at Stewart High School.
Next.
Hi, I'm Ernie Wells, I'm the Hour Manager. I want to thank Sandy and the whole task force. I've been involved since last October, listening in. I think there's some good things there, and I think there's some things that have to still be worked on in the Sears property in particular, but overall, I think there's some questions out there. I want to talk about the schools for one bit, though. I mean, my son was in Bailey's for 6 years, and certainly I'm happy that the children that are there now don't have to be in that overcrowded situation they lived in for far, far too long. And I have to say, I don't draw a lot of comfort from a paragraph in a policy document that says that we're going to look at a new school at all. I don't think there's any commitment in terms of money or anything that, I mean, they know they needed that school in terms of Bailey's for quite a long time, in Glen Forest and everywhere else. Stewart's not going to be addressed because it doesn't have room for that, so we have real problems with the added density that's going to come to the school system. It's going to happen. It'll happen even if just the Sears side is developed in the shorter term, the 20 to 40 years down the road that we have to think about. It's going to happen without any development on the Sears side. So we've got real problems there. I also think it's instructive just to see how bad and how long that the people in Bailey's and Glen Forest had to deal with overcrowded situations and it not be addressed. It doesn't give me any comfort. It's going to be addressed because people it's going to be addressed. I think, with all due respect, Penny, I think it's disingenuous to say that there was no formal request from the school board for the Wilson side. I personally don't know that it's the right place for a site now to have another school in the middle of Seven Corners, since we already have one now. But there were reasons that it did not, there was a desire on everybody's part, the community, the school board to some degree, in terms of trying to get that Wilson site and looking for it. We know how hard it is to find land. We couldn't even use something that's owned by the county and look back at it. And I just have to say it'd be better if we were straightforward and said we had a better plan for that. If you had a different plan for that development effort, that's fine. Let's just say it instead of trying to hide behind something in terms of that. So that's my only point. The new school, I just have one comment that, the reason I hope it's there for the new school for the whole cluster 3 is not just Bailey's, it's the broader overcrowding that we have. It's because there was a commitment in the bond referendum that we voted on to build a brand new school and not to renovate another school. And that was a commitment that was sold to the community, and people voted on that bond referendum because they thought they were going to get a brand new school to alleviate the Baileys and the whole cluster 3 crowd overcrowding. And that was the bait and switch that I think we've got to, everybody has to understand, because I know the community and people went there to tell people exactly what that bond referendum was for, and that's not exactly how that was used. So I do have some
And I'm going to go ahead with the next person, okay?
I'm Elaine Kiva, because we Pablo here. And I have a question. We are planning a significant growth in the population of Fairfax County. And I heard from the people whose children come from college that there are not that many jobs available for people who are already graduated. So my question is, first is Fairfax County planning additional employment places for people who are going to move into these affordable or unaffordable houses? When the new, and we have children, we are talking about overcapacity, so our children will come back where they will be working, or you plan that they will live here and they will be going to Ashburn, and they're going to be a factory, manufacturing business out there, where those people are going to work. It's one question. And the second question is, we are talking about revenue and from tax revenue and retail. But people who leave, it's not only schools they need. I remember a few years ago we had a carousel for the kids in Skyline Mall. The carousel is gone. It's a Target there. There are no, people who live here, they need dog houses, they need parks, they need swimming pools, they need water parks, they need so many facilities what to do with the children, what to do with our seniors, what to do with the people who have free time. Gym is not the only place we want to spend all our free time in. So what are the plans for that? Thank you.
Let me see if I can tell you. In the region, we're expecting in the region, the Washington metropolitan region, by 2050, we're expecting 1.5 million more jobs and more than 2 million more people moving into the region. We have places for people to work. We have 19 million square feet of vacant office space in Fairfax County right now that needs to be filled. The problem is we don't have places for the people to live. We have places for them to work. We don't have places for them to live. And so that is part of what we need to do, is to provide more housing options, more housing choice for people who are coming here to take the jobs that are available. Our unemployment rate is lower than most of the country and most of Virginia. We are working in Fairfax County and in Northern Virginia to make sure that this is a good place to have a job, to find a job, to keep a job, to have a career. That is work that's going on by the Northern Virginia Regional Commission, working with Northern Virginia Community College, George Mason University, the Chamber of Commerce, and many of the larger industries. That is something we need to keep right up here. And we do have places for people to work. It's having places for people to live that is our real challenge.
Okay, next, Maureen.
My name's Maureen Kaiser, and I'm a teacher. I used to work at Bailey's, and now I work in the whole Pyramid 3. And I just wanted to say, with all due respect, I'm a little sad that we have to create a task force in order to do something that I would think that we vote for you and you're hired to solve problems. And I used to work for the U.S. House of Representatives. I know it's a difficult job, but you should think ahead. Schools. I don't understand why we have to form a task force. This should be part of the plan. And the projection, if you just walk into Glasgow, you will see it's dangerous in the halls because the children are like running into a flush of children flying down. My son says he puts the saxophone on and goes, "I'm going in." And he flies in and they just push down the hall. And I'm not kidding you, stand by the hall like it's a mess. And that's Glasgow now. So why is the whole county, the supervisors, everybody, I don't understand why we're not taking that into consideration. So I'm just letting it off my chest.
Unanswered because, of course, every year we do, in fact, plan, and we make these projections and we try to plan for this. And I think a task force is a good idea because it would mean that we might generate some ideas beyond the planning that we're already doing. We know that Stewart is due to have more students. They are basically at capacity and slightly over now. Some of us remember when there were only 1,200 students at Stewart. We now have more than 1,900, and it's growing. Glasgow is also just about at capacity. Kay and I certainly remember when the school system was
trying to make it smaller.
Trying to make it smaller, yes. When and how many times did we remember it'll never be full? Well, here we are. It's only, what, 6 years later? 7 years later? It's not that long. So we do need to, as a school system, we do have new people working in facilities, and we do have, I believe, better projections. So that helps us. However, every year, we have been getting 3,000 more students in Fairfax County. That's, our superintendent likes to say that's approximately one class for us a day, per school day. And so we have been growing. I can remember this before I was on the board, is when Kay was on the school board, and the projection at that time was that our school enrollment would be flat. And then 2008 came, the economy tanked, and all of a sudden we had many more people doubling and tripling up, not just in Mason District, but throughout. So we have had an amazing amount of growth. I believe that we have better projections now. Now that we have better projections, we need to be working on what to do with it. We do have some room at Stewart to build an addition. We're looking at that. We do have room at Glasgow to expand if we need to. We're looking at another site on Columbia Pike. to deal with the overcrowding issues that we have then, but we do need to be doing longer-term planning for other capacity issues.
Okay. Okay.
Question from the audience. Please explain the history of the Sears site dispute and the need for the separate committee.
Okay, so when we did the charrette, after the 9 months of education. Thank you. After we did the 9 months, we had the charrette, and one of the charrette tables was specifically focused at the Sears site. And what we did was we took the members of our task force that lived in that area and we put them at that table. And we asked them to come up with their plan for the Sears site. They came up with a pretty good plan for office uses, retail, and residential. Residential was around 350 units, office was around 200,000, and retail was about 100,000 square feet. The traffic that would have been generated from those uses was approximately the traffic that's being generated now. So we thought it would be kind of a wash. The residents came up with a plan. We then took that to be the task force plan. So over the next year, we worked with that. We modified it a little bit, and we, I hate to say this, but one of the task force members had a heart problem, stepped off the task force. He was replaced by a partner in the Sears site, and that partner, I got a red light here, the partner decided that they wanted more units than what the task force came up with. The task force never changed its opinion, but he went to the community and told the community he wanted more units, and that's when everything went sideways. However, the task force never changed its opinion on the Sears site. So when it finally got to the point where we had to move forward on the entire plan, the task force had 100% agreement on Area A and Area B. Area C was Sears. We had 100% agreement on Area A and B. We moved that one forward because the task force was split on how to deal with the Sears site, not with the overall number of square footage, but how many units versus how much retail versus how much office. We came up with different proposals. The overall number never changed. The trip generation didn't change. I decided it made more sense, since everything we had done in the task force had been collegially done. We took votes where basically everything was unanimous. I tried not to force votes. So at that point, I decided we weren't going to move forward with the Sears site. And Supervisor Gross decided at that point.
At that point, I decided that we needed to carve off the Sears site and handle that with some extra work, extra diligence. And actually, I see Tina Trapnell sitting in the back, and Tina, you were one of the very first people who sent to me an email saying we need to take a little more time on this. And so, listening to Tina and talking to others, I decided that I would constitute a separate citizen committee to look at the Sears site and the recommendations for the Sears site, so that those could ultimately, that the citizen committee, chaired by Marty, could be folded into the overall recommendations when those are brought forward to the planning, when they're ready for the planning commission. So Marty, that's your charge.
Okay, thank you. We have folks over here who've been standing for a bit, so we'll go ahead and name and neighborhood, please.
Hi, Ellie Pisarski, Lake Barcroft. And my question has to do with density and demographics. With respect to density, I have attended many other meetings, but always concentrated on the C parcel. And all of a sudden I said, I really should look at the whole thing. My fault, but anyway. The plan, the total plan, talks about 5 to 6 million square feet. And my husband and I looked at it. That's a total 7 corners. That is the size of the Pentagon. That is the size of the World Trade Center, one of the original world buildings. That's humongous. Then we went to look at this COG, Council of Governments, demographic projections. And maybe we have a problem, because you just said that Fairfax County is growing. They say that actually Fairfax County is not growing, and actually it has suffered some decline except for the immigrants. and they didn't, it's not foreign immigrants versus other states, it's just people that are coming. So my question was, if all of that is true, who's going to live in all of these places? That's it.
Thank you.
Well, I think what Sandy said was that our school population is growing. Fairfax County also is growing. We are not one of the high growth counties anymore. Loudon and I believe Prince William are now the high growth counties because they're smaller in population, they're getting more people, so their percentages are higher. Our percentage is smaller than it used to be, but it is still growing. We are growing all the time. Over the past 19 years, Mason District started out with about 98,000 people. It now has between 116 and 120,000 people. So all of our districts are growing. We know that Fairfax County is growing. I sit on COG. I would interpret those comments that you made a little bit differently because all of those COG numbers are derived from the individual jurisdiction planning numbers. So we are growing, it's just that we're growing at a slower rate than we used to be.
Okay, thanks. Next question.
Hi, my name is Sarah Mattingly and I live in Lake Barcroft. I had just a couple maybe of observations and then thoughts about it. I've heard a lot tonight about schools and about people's concerns about schools. I know in the different things that I participated in Lake Barcroft, density is a big issue. And retail and mixed use and green space, especially in green space. And I have to wonder, first of all, we want new transportation, we want new schools, but I haven't heard how we're going to pay for it, other than to hear that we certainly can't expect any money right now from the state, at least from transportation. Fair enough. So is there a way that there can be a compromise where we can have added density that's done well, that we can have great green spaces that we all love, and there's an urban land institute plan that has been proposed to the task force that's out there. If people want to look at it, that's modeled. There's some examples similar to the High Line in New York City. If people are familiar with that. I just have to wonder, can we take this and make it a really bold step? And I've said it before, where we can have the density that we need to pay for the affordable housing. Mr. Tillman spoke at Lake Barcroft and gave the formula for the affordable housing, why we have more density than everyone else. Have these fabulous green spaces, have the money to pay for our schools, and have it all. This is a 40-year plan, so 20 to 40 years. I have to believe if we put something on paper today, it will evolve. I mean, it has to, some level, evolve. But there has to be some level of compromise, or we literally are going to have what it is that we have today. And I know that that is an option, but it's not an option that I feel comfortable with, that I want, 20 years from now to be still driving up Route 7 and, poor Ben, worrying about biking up Route 7 and everything else. I hope that we can compromise and that we can come up with something that everybody can at least feel good about moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am.
Let me just make a quick comment. Almost everywhere else in Fairfax County, and I've lived here since 44 years, almost everywhere else in Fairfax County where we've done redevelopment, the successful projects have been where it's not necessarily a green field, but it's a large piece of ground that's underperforming real estate that somebody wants to actually do something with. In this area, we don't have that luxury. We have a shopping center between 7 and 50 that's performing very, very well for the BSL company. They don't actually want to do any of this. So the question is, how do you take a 30 to 40-year-old under what I consider to be a shopping center that's aging dramatically, has lousy retail, and how do you create something to create a sense of community and walkable, livable place? Well, you have to create an incentive. The same thing around the Wilson site when we have the affordable housing. How do we take the affordable housing and convert that into something really nice and put new units there? Well, once again, it's performing real estate. The real estate is making money for the particular owner, and if we want to leave it that way, that's certainly an option, and I think we can do that. The same thing with BF Salt. If we want to leave that shopping center the way it is, that's certainly an option, and we can do that. But if we want to change it, we've got to create an incentive, we've got to create incentives to do it, and that's the problem.
Okay, thank you. And next, and then after you go, after Debbie goes, I do need to read you some questions that were given to me.
Hi, I'm Marlene McHugh. I'm in Sleepy Hollow.
No, he's having a chair.
My question is traffic. We all know we have a lot of traffic in the area, not just in the Seven Corners, but the whole Fairfax County, Washington metropolitan area. When I listen to the discussions, it seems like it's like, well, maybe we'll do this or maybe we'll do that. Are we going to be in the same situation that where the development comes and then the roads can't handle it? Are we going to be able to have some of the infrastructure there before all the apartments and the retail is here? Otherwise, it's going to be gridlocked again. Or still.
Let me just mention that there are a series of follow-on motions that are going to be made by the Board of Supervisors when this goes to the board. All transportation related. Let me just read these. This is what the Board of Supervisors is going to do. The board will establish a Seven Corners Implementation Steering Committee consisting of members of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, Falls Church City Council to guide the implementation of the redevelopment public facilities and vision set forth in the comprehensive plan. The board directs, number 2, the board directs staff to establish a Seven Corners working group consisting of members of Fairfax County Department of Transportation and Falls Church City staff to guide the implementation of redevelopment public facilities for the vision. This is all because you can't do the transportation here without Falls Church participating. 3, the board.
They can read, I don't think.
I think that was.
It's okay, go ahead.
I think you need to hear this.
ahead.
The board directs staff to work with the city of Falls Church to identify and address challenges associated with transitioning from recommendations in the Seven Corners Comprehensive Plan to Gateway and Falls Church. So all that stuff on the east side of Falls Church is going to be redeveloped. 4, the board directs staff to develop cost estimates for transportation improvements recommended in the Seven Corners Comprehensive Plan. These cost estimates should then be used to develop a funding and implementation plan to support the recommendations found in the plan. 5, the board directs staff to work with the City of Falls Church, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission to complete the Route 7 Transit Alternative Study and bring the recommendations forward to incorporation in the comprehensive plan. And that's really the BRT and the trolley. 6, the board directs staff to further study the grid of streets proposed in the Seven Corners conceptual street network to determine existing right-of-way needs. The board directs staff to utilize existing funding dedicated to Seven Corners transportation improvements, as well as identify necessary additional funding to move forward on the design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of the Seven Corners interchange project. 8, the board directs staff to conduct a phasing analysis to determine the necessary order in which recommended transportation improvements should be implemented to maintain a balance between the further development of Seven Corners and the transportation associated infrastructure needs over time. 9, the board directs staff to create guidelines to provide additional detail on how to incorporate Seven Corners specific urban design and streetscape features into future.
How many numbers are there?
9.
That was good, okay, only 9.
My point is,
Okay.
we're not forgetting about transportation funding.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I didn't know how many numbers there were. Okay,
There's copies of that on the back.
that's on the back table.
For folks who, along with a handout on transportation funding options that are available for the interchange.
Transportation funding options available for the interchange are back there at the table as well.
And
I'm gonna
those
let
are,
Debbie ask that.
and Molly, those are in draft form. That doesn't mean that those are the only follow-on motions. There may be more.
Okay, now, it is now almost time for the Nats game to start. I'm gonna let everyone know that it's okay if you have to go, but we'll probably stay till 9:15. Is that okay? And see how it's going. Okay. Well, I was gonna read a question, but is this follow on to that? Okay, here's a question from the audience. I am very eager to see the vision realized, including walkability and higher end diversity or diverse retail. However, I'm concerned about ensuring future demographics can support this. 1, please comment on the proposed mix of apartments and condos, including market rate units. 2, how does the number of residences now compute to these proposed?
That's what we have.
Yes, so the first question was.
We have about 6, We have about 600 units there now, 650, something like that are affordable. That's either VHDA finance or HUD vouchers or Fairfax County vouchers. What we're adding is about potentially 6,000 units, only 600 of which are basically the affordable units. So the balance of those units are going to be market rate units with some people that will be in what we call the workforce housing mix, which is around 80% of the median income. So that's where we create the disposable income from those new units that will create the change we need in the seven corners to create those walkable streets. Secondly, if you stand over by the Wilson Center and you walk to the Metro, which I have done, it takes me 17 minutes to walk. I'm a little bit overweight, but I made it in 17 minutes. So I consider that area to be Metro-centric. In addition to which we're adding.
The county guidelines do not follow that.
Well, they may not, but believe me, as an urban planner of 45 years, I believe it.
Walkability guidelines say less than half a mile.
Oh, it's tied up.
I can hear you.
Okay, you do it, Michael. 6,000 apartment units will probably lead to about 12,000 cars, 18,000 new residents, all more than a mile from Metro and immediately adjacent to one of the most congested intersections in all of Fairfax County, and in Mason District, which is the most congested district in the county. 6,000 residential apartments is completely off the charts in comparison to any other residential development in Fairfax County. It's more than twice as big as the Springfield Town Center, much more than twice as big as the Reston Town Center, and those are both on the Metro. It's 6 times bigger than the Shirlington development. It's completely off the charts. So my question first for the panelists, can you point to any development in Fairfax County, anywhere with this level of density, this size, this many residential apartments, this far from Metro? That's my question. But let me also make a comment about transportation. The idea of a ring road around the Seven Corners intersection sounds like a great idea until you realize that Falls Church city limits extend to the top of the Hillwood Triangle, which is almost adjacent to the Seven Corners intersection itself. In order to skirt and avoid encroaching on Falls Church city limits, which is what we've promised to do, in order to avoid Falls Church, you'll have to create a new intersection where the ring road will rejoin Route 7 immediately in front of the Coons Ford property, which is about 1/10 of a mile, less than 1/10 of a mile from the current Seven Corners intersection, and also 1/10 of a mile from Roosevelt Road in Falls Church. So my second question is, first of all, how does creating a new intersection, a 1/10 of a mile from a new freeway intersection, a 1/10 of a mile from the current Seven Corners intersection, help to improve traffic flow? VDOT guidelines call for new intersections to be spaced 1,320 feet or a quarter of a mile apart for a major arterial, which Route 7 is. This is not in compliance with VDOT guidelines, and I don't see how creating really an 11 corners intersection will improve traffic.
All right, so one of the things I did my last 2 years on the Fairfax County Planning Commission, I did the Reston Town Center. You're wrong. Reston Town Center has about the same number of units, and the Reston and the Reston Town Center has not had Metro for 27 years, and it's still not there, and it won't be there for another 4 years because it's now just under construction. The closest Metro to the Reston Town Center is the Wheelie Station, which I was on the planning board to create not too many years ago. The next one will be at the Reston Town Center, and it's not going to be at the town center. It's going to be at the other end of the CIA. So in order to get to it, it's actually a farther walk than what you would have to walk from Seven Corners to the Silver Line Station at East Falls Church. Okay, now the ring road. Let me make a comment. That's been the subject of our conversations with Falls Church City Council, Falls Church planning staff, and the Arlington County planning staff for the last 3 months. And we decided to pull the ring road closer in. The new location of the ring road, yes, is across from Coons. Understand that directly behind the Eden Center is a road. The next Falls Church plan amendment will be for the Eden Center. And they're going to do to the Eden Center significantly more density than what we're talking about here. What they want to do is they want to put that becomes the connector. That becomes the connector. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that their plan for the Eden Center ties in with our plan and ties in with the transportation plan. That's the idea. So if our ring road got extended, we could find a way to get it through the Ford dealership, it would then go around the Eden Center and connect up to the rest of our circumferential and then get you to the East Western station. That's the idea.
We have a follow-up, I'll take it to follow on to that. Yeah, connected to it.
Okay, so, I have first a couple of questions on the pictures.
Yeah, neighborhood.
Oh, I'm sorry.
name.
Nobody knows me? She knows me? Jeff Hamilton, Holmes Run Valley, right? Okay, yeah. I wasn't really sure. I've lived here 15 years. What happens to the Falls Church Corporate Center towers, the Castle and BBT towers? And because they're inside one of the gray blocks, the triangle-shaped gray block by Hillwood and all that. Okay. I can wait on the answer.
That's Providence. That's another meeting,
Okay,
I'm
it's inside
sorry.
the picture. Okay, looks like it's inside the picture. You say you're the co-chair, who's the other co-chair?
Mary Ellen Ward.
Okay, Mary Ellen Ward. Okay, somebody asked me in the audience, Mary Ellen Ward, okay. So I go on a regular basis to Shoppers, Chipotle, Starbucks, Red Robin. My daughter likes the Joanne Fabrics. I can name, there's many places in that development that we use all the time. I never go to Wilston, honestly, but in the Seven Corners Center, we go there a lot. So I'm not looking for any additional retail support there. And we even go to Sears every once in a while for my car.
You go in your car though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to walk?
No. It's a long walk up Sleepy Hollow Road. Right, but the other half of the question is, so knowing that Falls Church is building a big bunch of stuff there, and now just finding out that Eden Center is going to be developed, and knowing, I mean, my own personal is I don't think I need any different kind of retail. I definitely don't need more people in cars. What was the reason for this to start with? I mean, did somebody say, hey, there's not enough of this, or there's too much of that? Or I mean, why 2 years ago did we decide that we wanted to add more people, more traffic, less room, all those things we've been complaining about, when I'm perfectly happy with what we have, except for the traffic getting through Seven Corners Center, but you can fix it, I mean, Seven Corners, you can fix that if you want, but the rest of the stuff, I don't have a problem with.
Thank you, Jeff. We didn't decide 2 years ago that we wanted to add more people and more traffic. What happened was that over time, I'd heard from a lot of constituents who said we need to do something about Seven Corners. And so, combined with the fact that we had already done some spot comp plan changes to Seven Corners, remember the no-tell motel and the old derelict car dealership that existed on Route, right there along Route 50, right at Seven Corners for more than 20 years? It's not there anymore because we did some comp plan changes. But when we did the first comp plan change in 1997, nobody bid. We thought we would get a grocery store, we thought we would get several things, and it didn't work, so we had to replan it. Now, what we got was public storage, Bank of America, and so forth. Not optimum, better than what was there. Because we've had, my office has been contacted by a lot of the property owners over time saying, what can I do here? What can I do there? I'd like to do something different. I said, we're not going to do any more of the spot comp plan changes. We need to do something for the entire Seven Corners Wilston area. We decided on what the study area was. This way we have that vision, okay? It's a vision, although sometimes we think it might be a nightmare, but it's supposed to be a vision to replan the Seven Corners Wilston area. It doesn't mean it's going to get redeveloped. It means it gets replanned, which then would allow potential rezoning activity to do the kinds of things that are in the plan. But that's where it came from, Jeff. People saying to me year after year after year, we need to do something about Seven Corners, plus the folks who have been coming to me wanting to do spot rezoning and spot comp plan changes. That's why we're doing the comprehensive plan proposal that we've got now.
Thank you. Okay, next person in the neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Matt Dillard, Sleepy Hollow Manor neighborhood. I actually have a fairly quick question on this news task force for the Sears area. I think it's great that you're bringing the neighborhoods involved in that, but we're not experts in this planning either. What urban planners, what transportation experts are also going to participate on this committee?
All the county staff.
All the county staff you see here, plus others, will be the resource for the special committee.
But not me.
No, it will be, no. The property
Who's going to
owners,
serve on the committee, though? I think
Who's
we can
gonna
not
serve
just,
on the
not just
committee?
support them,
Okay,
but
all
you need
right.
experts that
I
know
thought,
this.
no, this is a citizen-driven group now. They've already had all the experts. That was
So
part
I'm
of the
saying put
task
the
force.
experts with the civic group together, not the experts and not the civic separately, but put everybody together on one committee, because that way both sides can work together.
Well, the folks who were on the task force, which are the residential members who are continuing to serve, had the benefit of those experts.
You will have one expert, Martin.
And Martin, oh,
Carl.
Carl Moritz.
Will the new members be brought up to speed of what happened prior?
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's part of
They'll
Marty's.
have access to all
That's part of
correspondence, all
Marty's
that.
charge, absolutely. And then there will be all the county staff members who have been working on this all along. They are professional experts, absolutely, they are experts. We hire them in the county, we pay them a lot of money to do this kind of planning.
Okay, thank you. She had a question, right? Okay, and then we're getting ready to wrap up here, but we do want to mention that tomorrow the BCRC is hosting yet another meeting at 7 a.m. that some of these folks are going to be at 7:30 until 9 at Public House number 7. So, okay, next question. So if you do want to continue the conversation, it will be right here for the morning. Okay, next question.
Hi, my name's Laura Wild. I live in Palmar. I do want to say I'm all for the pedestrian access and the walkability and the parks and all of that sounds great and better transit. I imagine some of the people that you're hoping are going to be in these, market rate apartments are people like me and my husband, teachers, firefighters, etc. Those people my age, they have babies. You need to build a school. There absolutely has to be a school as part of this development, at least one. So just want to reiterate the point that was made earlier. But my question is, where can we find really a much more specific plan than this? This is really like bird's eye overview. And I really need to see kind of like block by block, what zones, where the affordable housing, because I appreciate you explaining like the area around Wilson specifically, but I'm still trying to figure out where the housing that's along Patrick Henry between 50 and Route 7, where's that affordable housing going? Is that similar? So I assume there's a website where we can really see like every single detail of what's going on in each block.
Yes and no. The website's there. It's fcrevit.org, which is Fairfax County FC revite.org.
Okay.
The thing is that this is a concept plan. So we don't get into that level of detail, block by block, area by area, because it's going to depend on the market and what landowners do with their properties. This is a guide to help them guide what types of development they want, they're going to bring forward, and then the citizens will, when there's a zoning amendment that comes forward for that property, which all of these landowners will have to do, that's when we'll get into, we'll actually see what are they looking to do block by block. So this is like the setting up the framework or the guide to share with what do we want to see, but those details will come when the zoning amendment comes, and everybody will have the chance again to weigh in on that, at that level.
But part of the apartments between Seven Corners and Route 50 are not part of the plan. They're not changing. They're not in the revitalization.
So they're not within
Hollybrook.
the area
No.
on
No,
one
no,
side.
Hollybrook.
Yeah.
All right,
Audience question. How many and which community associations were represented on the task force? What percentage of the task force did they represent?
The task force was, John, 15 people?
Nine residents.
9 residential members, 6. There were 6 property owners or agents of property owners, and there were 9 residents, including 1 apartment dweller and several people from various civic associations around. It was carefully balanced to reflect both the residential community and the property owners, not the business community, not the businesses, not the tenants in those commercial properties, but the actual folks who owned or managed the property. So there were about approximately 15, and overall, and more than half of them, it worked out. By the time a couple people moved, a couple people were replaced, it came out about half and half.
Right, but for the charrette, we added probably another 10 residents, so.
Yes,
it was
the
overall-
charrette had folks invited to not only participate in the charrette, but also folks were invited to observe the charrette. And I know the charrette at the Mason District Governmental Center, the room was full.
So we not only had additional 10 to 15 people, we also had maybe 40 or 50 people that came and watched the charrette occur.
Yeah, my question is, all the follow-on motions involve staff and Falls Church City and everybody else, but the community is not even mentioned in any of those follow-ons. So what I am petitioning for is to start a Seven Corners Development Corporation where we have at least 2 paid staff to implement, they have it at Southeast, Mount Vernon, something like that. There is no reason why Seven Corners doesn't qualify for staff to implement development.
Southeast Fairfax Development Corporation, which is down in the Mount Vernon, the Richmond Highway area, somehow got county funding years and years ago. They have a separate, no, it's not a grant.
That's what the woman told me.
Well, it's a straight handoff from county taxpayers to the Southeast Development, Fairfax Development Corporation. All the other revitalization areas, Reston, Bailey's Crossroads, Annandale, we've all been salivating over the idea that we could get something similar. We've not been able to do that yet. What you're suggesting is a good idea. If we can make it work, it is not appropriate to the transportation follow-up motion.
We will petition.
Okay, now, one more question here, and then we'll have Dawn say the final question, and then but I do hear a common theme, school, density, and then what happens, we'll let the senior go.
Good evening. My name is Katrina McCormick, and I'm the president of the Ravenwood Neighborhood Association. Chairman Tillman, it's always wonderful to hear that the task force had complete consensus on the other parts of the plan beyond Sears, but I think as we have heard tonight, the community has very serious concerns. Those concerns have been communicated orally at meetings and in writing, including a joint community letter that was signed by all of the presidents of the local neighborhood associations and given to the task force members on August 12th. Those concerns have not been addressed or answered beyond the exchange between you and Don this evening, which was Don is presenting numbers and research which were in this letter in August 12th. You tell us that they're wrong. There's no explanation for why they're wrong. These numbers have never been challenged or addressed, and it is not useful exchange of information. I would respectfully request that this follow-on committee be allowed to broaden its purview beyond the Sears site to answer and address the legitimate questions that have been raised over and over by community members and have never been fully addressed by the task force.
That's a conversation I will have with the chairman of the new committee.
Okay, so the formal request was that we open the Sears site committee to look at everything and review more of the concerns that are brought forward tonight. So, okay, and Penny said she'll meet with Mr. Fega about that. Okay, so thank you, and okay, so I really appreciate you guys coming. Do we have any other, somebody in the back?
You have a question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have one final question, folks. I'm so sorry. What happens to the 600 to 800 households while their dwellings are being redeveloped? How will you guarantee affordable replacement housing?
To implement, they have it at Southeast, Mount Vernon, something like that. There's no reason why Seven Corners doesn't qualify for staff to implement development.
Southeast Fairfax Development Corporation, which is down in Mount Vernon, the Richmond Highway area, somehow got county funding years and years and years ago. They have a separate work. No, it's not a grant.
That's what the woman told me.
Well, it's a straight handoff from county taxpayers to the Southeast Development, Fairfax Development Corporation. All the other revitalization areas, Reston, Bailey's Crossroads, Annandale, we've all been salivating over the idea that we could get something similar. We've not been able to do that yet. What you're suggesting is a good idea. If we can make it work, it is not appropriate to the transportation follow-on motion.
We will petition.
Okay, now, one more question here, and then we'll have Dawn say the final question, and then but I do hear a common theme: school density, and then what happens? We'll let her say it.
Good evening. My name is Katrina McCormick, and I'm the president of the Ravenwood Neighborhood Association. Chairman Tillman, it's always wonderful to hear that the task force had complete consensus on the other parts of the plan beyond Sears, but I think as we have heard tonight, the community has very serious concerns. Those concerns have been communicated orally at meetings and in writing, including a joint community letter that was signed by all of the presidents of the local neighborhood associations and given to the task force members on August 12th. Those concerns have not been addressed or answered beyond the exchange between you and Don this evening, which was Don is presenting numbers and research which were in this letter in August 12th. You tell us that they're wrong. There's no explanation for why they're wrong. These numbers have never been challenged or addressed, and it is not useful exchange of information. I would respectfully request that this follow-on committee be allowed to broaden its purview beyond the Sears site to answer and address the legitimate questions that have been raised over and over by community members and have never been fully addressed by the task force.
Conversation I will have with the chairman of the new committee.
Okay, so the formal request was that we open the Sears site committee to look at everything and review more of the concerns that are brought forward tonight. So, okay, and Penny said she'll meet with Mr. Fega about that. Okay, so thank you, and okay, so I really appreciate you guys coming. Do we have any other, somebody in the back?
You have a question there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have one final question, folks. I'm so sorry. What happens to the 600 to 800 households while their dwellings are being redeveloped? How will you guarantee affordable replacement housing?
The law states that they have to, when that happens, they have to do a transfer plan. They have to come up with a plan for how they're going to keep those residents either in the next unit. And so what we've been looking at is the whole thing won't be demolished at once. It'll be building by building, and they'll find a way to keep the people somehow occupied, either there locally, or they'll try to get some kind of a voucher from Fairfax County to locate them to a nearby facility. So when the new units are available, they can potentially move back into the new units, assuming they want to.
And that's what we've done every time the county has preserved affordable housing, done any kind of renovation. The old Sunset Manor Apartments is a good example. Wedgewood is a good example. As those apartments get renovated, people are moved into the vacant units and then moved back in, most times moved back into their own units. That is the law. We must maintain residential opportunities for the people who may be displaced either because of redevelopment or just because of renovations in their own complex.
Thank you. And we just want to thank all the community for coming out tonight and our panel. And looks like Paul didn't get to tell us anything. Paul, do you have a note for us?